Hello everyone, AlzaboHD here with a brand new EU4 guide for you here today. In this video, we will cover all of the military idea groups present in Europa Universalis 4, and highlight which are the best for any given scenario you might find yourself in. To that end, we will analyze all 7 of the military ideas in this guide, exploring the benefits and setbacks of each group, along with their synergies and my recommendations on when to choose a particular idea. Let's get started with the guide. The first military idea group we will cover in this guide are the aristocratic ideas. Available only for monarchies, steppe nomads, and theocracies, this idea set is ideal for cavalry-dependent nations and for countries interested in increasing their horsepower. If you are noble and blue-blooded enough to select this group, the aristocratic idea set offers you a variety of bonuses, with the underlying theme of boosting the power of your mounted military units, increasing your national manpower, and providing you extra diplomats for your nation and generals for your army. Unfortunately for any would-be Genghis Khan though, is that mounted military and cavalry units are underwhelming and weak, and entirely useless in the late game, outside of niche circumstances and governments like steppe nomads and Poland that provide them bonuses. Consequently, the bonuses the aristocratic idea group confers on cavalry is largely useless for noble nations and only worth it for obtaining achievements that necessitate increasing cavalry power. Likewise, the bonus combat ability for horse units only benefits nations that can field 100% or near 100% cavalry armies, like the steppe hordes of Central Asia and East Asia, and for particular campaigns, like forming Manchuria and raising Manchu banners. The variety of bonuses aristocratic offer are weak offerings compared to the other military idea groups that concentrate more heavily in a given area, and outside of role-playing considerations or nomadic campaigns, your military monarch power would be better invested in almost any other idea set. If you decide to charge ahead and fill out the aristocratic idea group along with other relevant idea sets, you can unlock complementary policies that grant you even more leaders and an extra diplomat, or a further plus 20% cavalry combat ability to really put the wing in your wingless hussars. Unfortunately for any would-be king or queen, the aristocratic idea group is much like the headless horseman. It lacks focus and foresight, but if all you want to do is horse around and have the military monarch power to pony up, it can be a fun and unorthodox investment. Next up on our guide is the Plutocratic idea group, which offers republics and plutocratic monarchies a variety of benefits while specializing in nothing in particular. Much in the same way that the aristocratic idea group offers benefits and bonuses that range across the in-game spectrum, Plutocratic offers wide-ranging benefits to your nation, and, unlike the aforementioned group, can actually be quite useful. This is because the idea group offers your nation fast access to 10% army morale, which is crucial in winning early game battles and wars, and immediately increases the combat effectiveness of mercenaries, which should ultimately form the majority of your frontline in the mid to late game. Furthermore, and perhaps surprisingly present in an alleged military idea group, is that Plutocratic offers the player substantial economic and stability-based bonuses. Notably, a plutocratic nation receives a tremendous -2 national unrest modifier for calming conquered populations, and invaluable production modifiers and extra merchants to forcibly extract the ducats out of any region blessed by your trade. Given that plutocratic ideas offer bonuses to nearly every aspect of gameplay, it should come as no surprise that their policies are equally varied and eclectic. Of the large selection available to you, however, I strongly recommend the Military Allotment Act, which provides your nation plus 33% manpower and complements Plutocratic's relative lack of military-based bonuses. Overall, plutocratic ideas are a useful, albeit bizarre, military idea group, given that they offer your nation advantages that are more commonly seen in the diplomatic idea family. Regardless, they definitely have their place, and their fast access to army morale and mercenary discipline, combined with their economic, technologic, and stability-based modifiers, make them a valued pick for any player interested in playing and succeeding as a militant republic. The third idea group we will cover in this guide are the quantity military ideas. If you're the type of player who prefers to fill their armies with senior citizens and child soldiers while sacrificing the quality and discipline of your unit composition, oorah! Quantity is the perfect military idea group for you. Featuring the strongest first idea of all of the military idea groups, Quantity opens with a tremendous plus 50% national manpower modifier that not only increases your total manpower pool, but also yields substantially more recruits to draw from each month or to use to reinforce your depleted armies. This makes Quantity excellent for smaller nations that lack the development and provinces needed for a massive military force, effectively enabling them to stand toe-to-toe with more populated and powerful nations. Although largely overshadowed by the first and most relevant idea of the group, the other ideas in the Quantity family carry their own weight, with manpower recovery modifiers that replenish your war-torn armies 20% faster, reduced regiment costs that translate directly into lowered army maintenance, and increased supply limits across all of your provinces that allow you to feed and sustain armies of massive proportions. To top all of this off, The idea group's bonus provides you a monstrous plus 50% land force limit modifier that will enable you to overwhelm your enemies with wave after wave of peasant cannon fodder. Regarding policies, I strongly recommend those that offset the group's lack of army strength modifiers, and suggest prayer books, which provide your nation a much needed plus 10% army morale, assuming you've also completed the religious idea group. Ultimately, quantity is best chosen for nations that need soldiers quickly at the expense of quality. If you don't mind having to overcompensate for your army's lack of discipline and morale with sheer numbers, and if your idea of fun is commanding death stacks of over 100,000 men, you can unleash the dogs of war and transform any nation into Muscovy with the help of the quantity idea group. If the idea of hordes of unwashed and undisciplined peasant soldiers seen in the aforementioned section makes you physically ill and sends you goose-stepping in the opposite direction, our fourth idea group, quality ideas, are perfect for you. If you don't mind investing in an idea group that starts slower than the other military ideas, but ultimately improves all aspects of your military, be it by land and by sea, quality is the answer. With highlights that include immediate access to plus 10% infantry combat ability and a further plus 10% combat ability to cavalry and artillery, quality's ideas supercharge your frontline and backline, and are more than capable of turning the tide of any battle, assuming that you are numerically matched with your enemy. On top of directly boosting the combat effectiveness of your units, quality also bestows your nation with a permanent +1 yearly army tradition modifier, which directly translates into your recruitable generals possessing more skills and pips that guarantee you higher rolls of the dice in the thick of battle. But wait, there's more. If you pick quality ideas today, you also unlock access to the most powerful idea modifier in the game, plus 5% army discipline. Unlike army morale, whose effectiveness tapers off as the campaign approaches the modern era, discipline is by far the best military modifier to have in the mid to late game. This is because army discipline provides you two key benefits. It boosts both the damage your armies inflict on enemy forces, while also reducing the amount of damage your soldiers suffer from the enemy's front line, enabling highly disciplined soldiers to effectively stack, wipe, and decimate entire armies. Befitting the status of this group as one of the strongest in the game, the policies of the Quality ID group are overwhelmingly powerful, and might just be the best military policies in Europa Universalis 4. Of particular note are the Military Zeal Act, which gives you army morale and plus 10% siege ability, Weapon Quality Standards, which provides you an additional plus 5% army discipline, and Modern Firearm Techniques, which supercharges your frontline infantry by giving them 20% additional combat ability. This idea group is, without a doubt, one of the strongest military sets in the game, and I highly recommend selecting it in the mid to late game to transform your nation's soldiers into Prussian Space Marines. If you're already Prussia though, picking quality will remove any semblance of difficulty or challenge left in the game, but does allow you to obtain the Fine Goose Step achievement. The next two idea groups we will cover are arguably the best military idea groups in the game, and in the upcoming section we will explore when and why to choose offensive ideas, defensive ideas, or both, in order to greatly increase the combat effectiveness of your army. While you can opt to take both of them, in fact I would recommend this in many situations, there are certain scenarios where taking one earlier over the other might prove beneficial to your campaign. It is important to understand the strengths and comparative advantages that each group offers, so we will begin by covering the defensive ideas. The defensive idea set can be best defined in 3 words: early game advantage and essential multiplayer meta. This is because the strength of defensive isn't defensive at all, but is in fact offensive. You heard me right. The second idea bonus of this group, Military Drill, is so powerful that nearly every player in a multiplayer campaign selects it as their first idea group, ahead of any other administrative or diplomatic group. This is because a plus 15% army morale bonus in the early game, coupled with staying ahead in military tech, allows literally any nation to steamroll and obliterate any enemy army unfortunate enough to stand in their way. On top of this trump card, defensive ideas also immediately provide you +1 yearly army tradition, offering you stronger and more capable generals from day one, while also translating into higher dice rolls for you to turn the tide of any battle. And you are guaranteed to have highly competent leaders, as the third idea of the set provides you a +1 maneuver modifier for all of your generals, allowing you to chase down, outrun, and rout enemy armies long before the advent of the forced march mechanic in the mid-game. At this point, you're probably wondering why the idea group is even called defensive, but latter idea investments actually do provide bonuses to your forts and territorial defense, by increasing attrition for your enemies to bleed them out without ever engaging them. Confusingly, the defensive idea policies are actually defensive, and largely focus on fort defense and avoiding attrition for your troops, while amplifying attrition for any enemy intent on invading your territory. The best 2 policies that I'd recommend for players interested in selecting this group are the Preparation Act, which greatly reduces your army's attrition by a substantial 25% and automatically reduces your war exhaustion every month, and Local Militias, which further boosts your fort defenses by 10% and also automatically reduces your monthly war exhaustion. Both policies are crucial, as the automatic monthly war exhaustion reduction permits you to chain wars of conquest indefinitely, which to this day confounds scholars as they debate the meaning of defense in the face of such aggressive hostility. Overall, defensive ideas are very good, and are a top candidate for your first idea group in single-player campaigns, whilst also defining the metagame in competitive multiplayer matchups. Don't let the fort icon fool you. This idea group is an immediate threat and turns benign armies into roaming bands of murderers that will fight to the last man. While defensive ideas are custom-tailored for early game supremacy and multiplayer competitions, the other crucial idea, the offensive idea group, is ideal for when you need beefy generals, dastardly dice rolls, and most importantly, more army discipline. It is for these reasons and more that the offensive idea group excels in the mid to late game, with immediate benefits that boost your army's leader effectiveness by +1 land leader shock and fire. Featuring an automatic advantage in both the fire and shock phases of combat, the extra pips these ideas confer to your leaders ensures your nation the advantage in the RNG that is so often EU4's combat system. While more powerful generals translate into more effective armies, the highlights of the offensive idea group feature far later into the set and require a bit of investment, necessitating worthless and filler bonuses to recruitment time and battle prestige before things begin to get spicy. And the spice does indeed flow, with the strongest bonuses of the set providing your military +20% siegeability, which greatly speeds up the capture of those pesky level 8 forts, and the penultimate Esprit de Corps finisher, which provides your army +5% discipline that, as mentioned in the quality section above, boosts the overall damage of your army while simultaneously protecting them at the same time. It is for these reasons that offensive is the strongest late-game military idea group in EU4, and greatly speeds up world conquest campaigns, to say nothing about the +20% land force limit modifier I've forgotten to even mention. In terms of policies, the offensive idea group is perfect for expansion-minded players intent on blitzkrieging lesser nations into submission. To this end, I've identified two of their strongest policies: modern siege weapons, which further boosts your siegeability by 10% and gives your generals the incredibly rare and valuable +1 leader siege pip, and the Liberation Act, which greatly reduces provincial and nationwide unrest while you liberate and spread democracy against your unenlightened and resource-laden enemies. Offensive is to the late game as defensive is to the early game, and if you've military monarch power to spare, it would be unwise not to add this powerhouse of an idea group into your nation's repertoire. At last, we have reached the final military idea group, and as most of you might have anticipated, we've saved the best for last. That is, of course, if you define the best military idea group as a worthless waste of monarch power and an hilarious attempt on the part of Paradox into making ship-on-ship warfare irrelevant. The naval ideas are downright dreadful, and it brings me physical discomfort to recite this part of the guide, so let's make this quick. This idea group transforms your old navy into J Crew. If you really like ships, and if you want to make a splash in the proverbial pond of disappointment that are naval ideas, you're right at home. I mean, holy ship. Nothing really encapsulates depression more than sailor recovery speed and yearly naval tradition. But let's get to the point. If you really are Captain Jack Sparrow and have disregarded my advice thus far, I've got great news for you. Naval policies are actually really good. This is particularly true if you are a pirate republic, as one of the most interesting policies in the game, the Terms of Surrender Statute, provides your scurvy and hardtack sailors a massive +33% chance to capture enemy ships. If you yar, not a pirate though, naval ideas offer quite possibly the best trade-oriented policy in the game, in the form of fortified trading posts, which bestows your merchant marine with +40% global trade ship power and a further reduction of 10% on the cost of recruiting light ships. Despite the fun and deceptively powerful policies though, naval ideas are still terrible, unless if you sexually identify as a Spanish galleon, or if you intend on role-playing a purely maritime nation. It is for this reason that I'd strongly recommend you spend your military monarch power elsewhere, as even suppressing rebels is a good investment in comparison, but if you really are a pirate, I doubt you'd heed my advice anyways. Before concluding the video, I'd like to overview a quick recap of the idea groups we've covered in the guide, and rank them according to their usefulness. These tiers correlate with the perceived value of each idea set, with higher tiers composed of the most useful military ideas, and the lowest tiers composed of the situational and outright avoidable idea groups. The top tier consists of defensive ideas, which provide fast early game morale bonuses, offensive ideas, which supercharges your leaders, siegeability, and army discipline, and quality ideas, which provide your army's late-game combat effectiveness and also give you discipline. Next on our list is the middle tier, consisting of plutocratic ideas that provide a wide array of economic and production bonuses with a tiny splash of military modifiers, and the quantity ideas, which substantially boost the manpower of your nation and allow smaller nations to stand toe-to-toe with the great powers. The lowest tier covers the idea groups that I strongly recommend you to avoid at all costs, and consists of aristocratic ideas which provide minor bonuses to cavalry and unfocused modifiers to random other groups, and naval ideas, which literally only benefits pirates and players who view ships as something more than a vessel to ferry their land units. Ultimately, these tier lists are subject to change with the development of the game, and depend on which nation you play, but overall they are quite stable across patches and updates, and I don't expect them to change substantially in the future. As always, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. This video guide is the final part of a 3-part series detailing all idea groups in Europa Universalis 4, and the previous videos covering diplomatic and administrative ideas are available if you'd like to watch them as well. A special shoutout goes to my patrons on Patreon that support the channel and enable me to produce quality content on a regular basis. Do you have any recommendations for future EU4 content? Let me know in the comment box below. If you enjoyed the video, I would appreciate a like or a comment, as these will really help the channel grow. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.